now call the Iberia Parish Council meeting to order. It's June 23rd, 2021. The time now is 6 o'clock. We'll start the prayer by Mr. Michael Landry and the pledge by Mr. James Strong.
Lord, thank you for allowing us to meet one more time. Thank you for allowing us to do the work of this parish and this state one more time. We hope everyone votes by their conscience and how they feel. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Amen. Mr. Strong.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, initiate the roll call.
Tommy Pollard.
Here.
Michael Landry.
Here.
Lloyd Brown. Warren Gottstein.
Here.
Natalie Broussard.
Here.
Paul Landry.
Here.
James Trahan.
Here.
Scott Ronsonet.
Here.
Eugenia Olivier.
Here.
Brian Napier.
Here.
Lady Fontenette Brown. Marty Trahan. Tad Machuan.
Here.
We have 12 members in the quorum. Moving on to, kind of quick tonight, Mr. Pollard. Moving on to public comments. I have a motion by Mr. Tommy Pollard and a second by Mr. Rawsonate to go into public comments. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the ayes have it and the motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, number one.
Comments from the general public on non-agenda items.
We do not have any of those by request. Number two, Madam Clerk.
Comments from the general public on agenda items. A, representatives of Coder, Slavin and Company to present the financial audit report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020.
Good evening and thank you. When I got here this evening, I handed out a presentation packet that we're going to go over. It summarizes the information in the audit report, just in a quick and short format. If you have any questions as I go, please let me know. We'll start off on page 1, and in the blue audit report that was in your packet that you received, the audit report is consistent of 4 key components. 3 of those are reports that we prepare as the independent auditors, and the 4th component is the financial statements. Those 3 reports that we prepare talk about management's responsibilities for the financial statements, for designing and implementing internal control, prevention and detecting fraud, and compliance with laws and regulations. It talks about our responsibility of obtaining an understanding of the parish, how it operates, what controls and compliance are in place, and to develop our audit procedures and test the records of the parish in order for us to express an opinion as to whether the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. In addition, our results are the opinion on the financial statements. In our opinion, these financials are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. It's considered an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. It's the best opinion that auditors can give on this set of financial statements. When grantors, bond agencies, and anyone else reads this packet and they find that paragraph, they will be assured that the information in here is true to the best of our abilities. In our opinion, the parish complied with the federal programs that we tested as major. With the dollar amounts that y'all received from the federal government or passed through the state of Louisiana, we're required to test certain programs of the federal rules and regulations. And if we ran across any control or compliance issues, we would present it, and we have no control or compliance issues in that arena. In addition, because y'all are a governmental agency, the legislative auditor has us look at certain areas of controls and compliance. And if we note anything of exception there, we would report it to the council, and we have no items to report there either. So the parish was able to get clean reports from us across the board for all of those areas that we looked at. As I mentioned earlier, the 4th part is the financial statement, and that's where we'll go over the rest of this packet. If we flip to page 3, I have comparative information for y'all just for your reference, but we'll focus primarily on the 2020 information. These are governmental activities. This is all of the parish's funds, resources, and everything else from all of the different sources. In total, revenue was about $30.5 million. Your total expenditures for all of your sources was about $30 million. And you have an ending fund balance from everything, dedicated, general fund, and all other sources of about $50 million. Overall, a pretty good position to be in. A lot of those monies are restricted for various purposes, but that's the overall picture of the parish as a whole. Key sources of revenue is included on page 4. And again, this is overall for the entire parish. Your primary revenue source was your ad valorem taxes, about $11 million that y'all took in. Sales tax was about another $8.3 million, with state resources, government grants and whatnot being another $3 million, and federal grants of another $3 million there as well. Other sources from various fees, charges, and whatnot made up the remaining of your revenue sources. If we flip on to page 5, this is your expenditures, where y'all spent all of that money. Public Works was your primary expenditure. This is about 22%. That's roads, bridges, patches, repairs, and that sort of thing. Health and Welfare was another 17%. General Governmental Operations was 16% of your total expenditures. Debt Service, Public Safety, and Capital Outlay rounded out the remaining top numbers. If we flip on to the next page, page 6, this is your general fund only. We've excluded all of the other funds, all the other sources and expenditures, just to look at this because this is your primary operating fund. The monies here are non-restricted in general, and it's allowed to kind of make up any shortfalls that you would have in other sources, other programs. In total, your revenues for this year was about $5.4 million in your general fund. Of that, you spent about $4.7 million. And we've put comparisons here for you to see year over year so you can see the trends of what's been going on. If we flip on to page 7, this gives you an overall picture of where the parish ended at the end of the year from a cash and a fund balance perspective. Your fund balance in your general fund was about $2.29 million. Your cash on hand was about $1.6 million in your general fund. You can see from the graphs that over the past couple of years, those numbers have gone up significantly, which means that you are putting yourself in a good position should we have something come up that you need to use those resources from your general fund to cover shortfalls or delays in other areas. Overall, y'all are putting yourself in a good position in that general fund. The last information that I want to go over is your royalty fund. Just because of the significance of the information presented here, your royalty fund is monies that are derived from the state property for oil and gas leases and resources and things of that nature. Y'all use it primarily for road improvements, drainage, and related debt service and things of that. You can see in 2014, the state was providing you about $4.2 million for those purposes. The state in 2020 provided you $400,000. That's a pretty substantial decrease to that revenue source that y'all have. And this is not unique to Iberia. This is every parish in the state that we work with as a firm is seeing similar trends here with very little sign of those numbers coming back up. Just because of the significance of what y'all spend that on and the significant drop, and y'all have no control over that, is straight from the state of Louisiana, but I wanted to put that information out in front of you so you could see where those numbers were. Are there any questions?
I do. I have two. On the total governmental revenue, when you look under the expenses, and I'm sure you or Kim can answer it, we went from 3.7 million to 30,700,000 to 30 million, almost flat. Is that because we had one-time monies that was spent in that fiscal year, moving over? The project was completed. Is that correct, Kim?
Primarily,
I would imagine
yes.
that's probably Progress Point and the access road.
I wouldn't think it would be about those projects, but it could be one-time money. Offhand, I'm not 100% certain. I can look it up though.
But that's probably what it is, one-time money projects.
Yeah, it could be one-time.
Yes.
And then I had another question. Looking at the general fund revenues, we see the decrease in expenses because of partial billbacks that we did in the budget of last year, or is that gonna be adjusted this year also? Then we do 3% of each of the expenses in the departments? Didn't we up it?
Your-
I know exactly.
The overall decrease between 19 and 20 was only about $20,000.
Right, but I'm saying, if you looked over the years, in 2018, we took some things that we were paying in general, and we've moved them to different departments, is that correct? I mean, I know we took out of there certain expenses that can't think off the top of my head, but I know we took some one-time monies that we were paying in not one-time monies, general fund expenses, and we shifted them, kind of like we did in Public Works, where we shifted around how we paid some people out of the road district into, is that correct?
It was like PEC stuff.
Right.
But I don't remember exactly which year that was.
I wish I would've brought my paperwork.
I can look this.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, I don't think anyone can disagree that it is a clean report and see the cash on hand balance for days has increased.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, sir.
or,
Cash money that we have.
Yes, sir.
That's really good.
129 days is good in your general fund. We'd like to see it right in that range. There's room for growth there as well. There's no rule that says how much you should have or where a cap should be or what minimum or maximum. You definitely don't want to go too low. As your general fund is your catch-all for any other sources, the more that you can slowly build that up, the more you can weather delays in the federal government getting you monies, delays for sales tax, property taxes, changing the adjustment, and anything that you're getting revenue-wise, your general fund can either fund that if absolutely necessary, or you'll have the cash on hand to continue to provide the services that you do until those delays from those other funding sources kick back in, and then you can replenish those cash on hand.
Right. Good.
are there any other questions, members?
I got a question.
Mr. Richard?
I think when you take a look at what's going on here with your cash on hands, if you look back at 2016 when we came here, when some of us came here, we had 28 days cash on hand, and if you go into 2017, it went to 58, then to 78, then to 90, and today we're at 128 days cash on hand. I would have to say, from any business perspective, you would have to think that that's pretty good. When you look at the fund balance days available, in 16 it was 41, and we're at 180 right now. Now, what that means is that we have certain things we need to start to do. We don't want this number to just go up. Of course, we would like to see our general fund go to $4, $5, $6 million.
That'd be
That's
nice.
what we would like to see. But we have, I think we're in a much better position today. We're in a much better position today than we were not many years ago.
Anyone else? You want to close?
That's all I've
That's it?
got, if there are no other questions.
Hearing none. Moving on,
Thank you very
I'll
much.
need a motion to close public comments. No, that's for committee. I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown, second by Councilwoman Broussard. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to reports from finance and administrative actions. There are none. Moving on to reports from parish or other governmental agencies. There are none. Public Works reports, Madam Clerk.
Public Works Department report for closed work orders dated May 26th through June 8th, 2021.
Members,
were
that-
emailed to council members.
Members, that should have been emailed to you. Moving on to special business. Number one, Madam Clerk.
Chairman Warren P. Gossifan Jr. to announce and discuss the resignation of District 3 Councilman Brad Davis.
Okay, members, you should have gotten the email from the clerk about Mr. Davis's letter that was sent to the Secretary of State. In the meantime, we have gotten that back. Andy, I know you've been following it heavily. Did you want to start and maybe discuss where we are after the discussions with Jason? And
Well, I can. The resignation letter was received by the Secretary of State, and that is what starts the process. The effective date, I believe, was June, in his letter was June the 11th. The Secretary of State considers it effective when they receive it, so June 17th. That's what started the 30 days and the time for calling the election. So it was received. We received notice that really there's two things that the council will need to do. One of the things you have on your agenda tonight is to accept the resignation. Also, I think in the second part of this, Mr. Gotchison, you'll be kind of announcing the process that you intend to follow to fill that vacancy. The second thing that will need to take place is that you will need to call a special election to fill that vacancy. That special election is going to be held, and you get this date from the Secretary of State. This was not one that any of us selected. The first election will be March the 26th, 2022, which will be the primary, and then April the 30th, 2022, which will be the general election. And that's really and you have two things again on your agenda. One is to approve the resignation, one is to actually call the election. We'll talk about it when we get there, but I did work with Jason Akers, who, and let me just tell you that Foley Judell is always very helpful to Iberia Parish government in helping draft things where elections are necessary. You get billed for nothing but just the true out-of-pocket expenses. They're very helpful, and Jason helped again in preparing this. You'll have that at a later date. So, Mr. Gottschalk, unless there's any other questions, I'll turn it back over to you.
Let's, before we ask the questions, those pertaining to him leaving, we'll deal with that once he comes to the agenda item. We'll allow Brenda to go to number 2. Madam Clerk.
Chairman Warren T. Gosh is saying to advise that persons wishing to be considered for this position will be requested to address the council at a special, but it'll actually be a regular meeting.
Correct.
To present their qualifications and should forward a letter and/or resume to Chairman Warren P. Gosh Jr. at the council's office.
Okay, members, just to have a discussion here, I'd ask you, if you can, if we can set a date tonight, at what point do you want to cut off accepting applications for the position? So I'll open it up. We don't need a motion in a second, just to start. Mr. Napier, you recognized?
What's the date that you want to make the appointment
The date that I want to make the appointment?
to council?
Well, first, let's set the
No,
date
but
up.
that's what she said. It would not be a special meeting, it'd be at a regular meeting.
That would
What
be
regular meeting
that would be
is?
the next meeting, correct, Brenda?
Correct, the July 14th meeting. Or a deadline to appoint the person is July 19th.
So July
So
19th, it needs.
there should be
okay.
no reason to call a special meeting.
So the meeting's on the 14th, but because of the
Correct.
state
Correct.
guidelines, we have, okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Mr. Napier, reserves? Anyone?
I would think the Friday before would be dinner. That way we have.
Well, that's why I'm asking. I'd like to make the decision together instead of me just making a decision myself. I mean, we can give plenty of time to those who know they want to serve in the position. Definitely, let's make the announcement tonight and we can start the process. Hold on one second. Mr. Rossini?
That's it, I was just suggesting.
Okay, Mr. Brown, I'd seen your hand up.
I did have to go in on that Thursday, on that Wednesday.
Wednesday has to,
Wednesday, so that would be the day to cut it off, I think.
okay. Mr. Brown, are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay, so Mr. Brown is putting on the floor that the Wednesday, like we would follow if you were putting anything on the agenda. Councilwoman Broussard?
I agree with Mr. Brown, because that gives us the opportunity to get everything in our packets on Friday. So if the cutoff is Wednesday, the staff is normally preparing our packets, and we can have all of the applications in our packets. That would be July 7th.
July the 7th,
Councilwoman, are you finished?
Yes.
Councilwoman yields back.
Eugene.
Councilman Landry?
I was kind of 8 minutes, and I think
Eight minutes?
he took ample time.
Councilmember Landry reserves. Councilmember Olivier is recognized.
Make it Wednesday the 7th at noon.
You want to put a time at noon, just like we would for any agenda item, okay?
Correct, yeah.
Is there any objection to that time and date? Here, and Brenda, if you can put that into the minutes and make sure that that's the cutoff time to receive any nominations.
Okay.
Just for anyone that's interested in applying for the position, you can apply, come and see the clerk, call the clerk and address it, or you can send an email to B. Bergeron, that's BERGERON @iberiagov.net, and type vacancy District 3 in the subject line item for those that are interested. Members, is there any other discussion on this before we move on? Hearing none, moving on to council member announcements. Council members? Councilmember Olivier is recognized.
I would like to congratulate the administration on a great audit that was presented to us tonight. And special thanks to Kim. I know Kim puts a lot of work into parish finances. Great job, Kim. Thank you. Yeah.
Councilman, you finished?
Yes, sir.
Councilman Olivier reserves. Anyone else? I want to give a shout out to the sheriff's office. I know they've been doing a lot of litter cleaning up around the parish in various districts. I know he's working hand in hand with the parish president to get the trash off of our streets and ditches. Just want to give him a shout out, and Larry. That's where it starts at. We got to take pride in the area we live in, and we got to do our part. Councilman Landry?
Yeah, I know we're all worried about the vaccine and everything, and I would encourage everybody to join the governor in the $100,000 cash drawings that'll be held for anybody that has been vaccinated, whether you've been vaccinated before or you get it now and then enter. And on August 4th, there'll be a drawing for $1 million from anybody that's vaccinated. So join in on that. You go to shotatamillion.com, or there's an 800 number for some of us not too tech people.
You can always count on Mr. Landry to bring that positive feedback to the
Yeah,
council.
so here we go, we're gonna slam it negative. I was looking at some of the financials and things like that, and just to let our colleagues be prepared for phone calls, on the road finances, we budgeted the $250 for repair and maintenance of the roads. We've spent $128, which is 65%, and about the 40th percentage of the year. So come the end of the year, we're gonna have not
No
very
money.
nice roads.
No
So
money.
the roads you see today are the nicest they're gonna be for a while.
That's correct.
And maybe we,
Say that before.
yes.
It's good to
And
repeat
the
it.
new one is, maybe we can talk about a tax, and we're gonna call it the tax you never pay.
Thank you for taking that air out of our balloon, Mr. Landry.
You're welcome.
Councilman Landry reserves. Anyone else? Council members? Hearing no other council member announcements, moving on to the parish president announcements. Mr.
Thank you so
Richard?
much, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank Kim as well for the work that she do, her and her staff, in preparing for this budget, and as well as the parish council and the employees of the parish, to do what we do to try to stay in budget, year round. Thank you all so very much for everything you do, including you, Scott, and your
Oh,
staff.
thank you, Scott.
Okay, going to public works completions. Over the last 2 weeks, we did culvert cleaning in District 5, 10, 13, and 14. We had some collapsed culverts in District 9 that we had to take care of. Culvert inspections in District 11. We had debris pickup in District 2, 3, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. We had some field drainage work that we had to do in District 14. Roadside drainage work in District 9, grading of roads in District 11 and 14. We had some limestone work we had to get done in District 5, some road patching in District 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14. Road repair work in District 9, 10, and 13. Field ditches, side booming work we did in District 14. We had some signage work that we had to get done in District 3. 8, 9, 10, 12, and 13. Shoulder work in District 10 and 14, and tree trimming in District 9. Going back, talking about the litter abatement program, over the last couple of weeks, we picked up some 62 bags of trash on Black Lion Road, Marshfield Road, and also Lilla Road, along with tires and everything else you can think that people throw, the mattresses, the whole 9 yards. So litter is a problem in Iberia Parish. I want to say thank you to the sheriff and thank you to the district attorney for everything that they do in trying to help us get this thing under control. And that's it for now. Thank you all so very much. Well, one more thing. Let's talk about COVID just for a minute. Our percent positivity in Iberia Parish is at 5.2%. We was at 2.3% last week, so we're really doing good with our COVID numbers. The number of positive cases that we're getting in Iberia Parish is very much so down. It's definitely on a downswing. The number of people that we have in the hospitals in Iberia Parish is down. I don't even think we have any people as of today that's on a vent in Iberia Parish. Our percent positivity in the region is around 29%. Our percent positivity, in Iberia Parish is around 27. I'm talking about the people that actually got the vaccines, 27%. So we're doing pretty good right there. We need that number to go up a little bit. So Paul, thank you so very much for mentioning what you just mentioned. And with that said, I'm done. We got a lot to talk about.
Council
tonight.
members, are there any questions for the parish president? Hearing none, moving on to consent
you.
agenda items for public hearing and adoption. Madam Clerk?
Minutes, regular meeting of the June 9th, 2021 meeting. Summary number 80. A resolution expressing support for a proposed application of Project Shoulder for an industrial tax exemption contract. Note tabled from the May 26, 2021 Iberia Parish Council meeting. Summary 103. A resolution accepting the resignation of Mr. Brad Davis as council representative of District 3, all in accordance with Section 204A of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter, and declaring the office of District 3 of the Iberia Parish Council as vacant, effective June 11, 2021, upon receipt of official notification of resignation from the Louisiana Secretary of State. Summary number 104, a resolution authorizing the parish president to execute a cooperative endeavor agreement with Bayou Teche Water Works for the expansion of a water line to O'Day Road, District 9, all to be funded with an additional $40,800 from a Community Water Enrichment Fund, CWEF grant, and to reaffirm funds in the amount of $29,200 for said project, as previously authorized by Resolution number 2019-126, which brings said funding to a total amount of $70,000.
Do I have a motion, members? I have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry and a second by Councilwoman Natalie Broussard. Mr. Landry?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 80 out, and then we can get an explanation with Mr. Shealy, and then we can
Could you also pull out 103?
Matt,
Okay, I have a motion. Okay, I have a request by Mr. Landry to pull out summary 80. Members, is there any other ones?
103.
Councilwoman Broussard is pulling out 103. Any other requests to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, we have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry and a second by Councilwoman Broussard to adopt the rest of the remaining consent agenda items. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving to summary number 80, introduced by Paul G. Landry of District 7. Madam Clerk.
A resolution expressing support for a proposed application of Project Shoulder for an industrial tax exemption contract.
Move.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard and a
second.
second by Councilman Paul Landry. Councilwoman Broussard is recognized.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Shealy to explain what's going on.
Yeah, I just want you to know, we've been in pretty constant contact with Mike Tarantino about this particular project. Initially, we were told that it would appear on the today's agenda for the Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry. It turns out that that meeting was moved to June the 28th, 2021. In order for you to support that application, it has to be approved by the Commerce and Industry. So I'm asking that it be tabled. And I had sent you an email earlier suggesting some language, and so my language is that it be tabled until it's approved by the Board of Commerce and Industry, and that it be returned to your agenda by the clerk as soon as we receive notice of that. We hope that you'll be able to act on it at your July the 14th meeting. I will say this, I believe your action that you took 2 weeks ago or so when you initially approved it in committee was very important. This project was being considered, or this company was considering both Louisiana and Florida. You took the appropriate action. You let them know that you were that you were in support of their program. After that, they actually made the application to the Board of Commerce and Industry. So it certainly appears that your action helped entice them to select Louisiana and Iberia Parish. So that's my suggestion as to this item.
I would offer a substitute motion. You need me to read it?
If you can, Councilwoman, before that, Councilman Landry, did you have any additional to add to that?
Yeah.
Hearing none, members, is there any discussion on the main motion currently before the substitute motion is entertained on the floor? Hearing no discussion, Councilwoman, on the substitute motion?
I'd move to table it until the Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry finds Project Shoulder eligible for participation in the industrial tax exemption and/or approves the application to do so, and authorize the clerk of the council to return this item to the council agenda at the next available meeting date following receipt of the notification from the Louisiana Board of Commerce and Industry, and that the application of Project Shoulder to participate in the industrial tax exemption program has been approved.
Does the councilman from District 7 concur? Councilman from District 7 concurs. Is there any discussion on the substitute motion? Hearing none, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 103, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk?
A resolution accepting the resignation of Mr. Brad Davis as council representative of District 3, all in accordance with Section 204A of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter, and declaring the office of District 3 of the Iberia Parish Council as vacant effective June 11, 2021, on receipt of official notification of resignation from the Louisiana Secretary of State.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry, second by Councilman
Napier.
Brian Napier.
Yeah, that's me.
Councilman Landry? Councilman Landry waves. Councilman Napier?
I just want to take the time to just to thank Brad for his time here. I know it was short, and wish him well in his endeavors, and you know, for the time that he put in to get elected and the time he spent with us. We're gonna surely miss him, and I wish him well.
Councilman Napier reserves. Anyone else? Councilwoman, I'm sorry. Andy, did you want to go?
Yeah, the reason I asked it to be pulled off is, you know, I wish I could tell Brad we're not gonna accept it, but that's, you know, that's not the case. And we took our best shot at wording this, knowing that the letter would be received, and so what that resolution needs to read is a resolution accepting the resignation of Mr. Brad Davis as council representative of District 3, all in accordance with Section 204A of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter. And we want to add, and the correspondence from the Louisiana Secretary of State dated June 17th, 2021, and declaring the office of District 3 of the Iberia Parish Council as vacant effective June 17th, 2021, period.
Okay.
Stop there. So that's my suggestion.
Councilman Napier, you finished?
Yes, I am. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So at this time, on the main motion, is there any other discussion before we entertain a substitute motion with the verbiage from the legal counsel? Hearing none, do I have a substitute motion to accept the verbiage from the legal counsel? I have a motion by Councilwoman Broussard and a second by Councilman Michael Landry. Ms. Broussard?
Mom making that motion in no way approves this resignation.
Ms. Broussard waves.
Wave.
Mr. Landry waves. Any discussion on the substitute motion? Hearing none, members, roll call members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to ordinances introduced for public hearing and adoption. Madam Clerk, going to summary number 5121, introduced by Regional Planning Commission.
An ordinance amending Section 2465C of Chapter 24 of the compiled ordinances of Iberia Parish, Louisiana, relating to the placement of additional structures on lots, all as recommended by the Regional Planning Commission.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry and a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Mr. Landry waves. Mr. Napier waves. Mr. Boudreaux, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Okay, so the zoning ordinance currently only allows for one structure per lot. It doesn't make any exceptions regarding the size of the lot. You can have 100 acres. You're only allowed one residence or one primary structure. It does say unless otherwise specified in that section, but there's no other exceptions. I would like to add an exception saying that if it can be shown that if you could divide this into multiple lots, then you don't have to actually do that. I want to note that most of the people who come to my office and want to put a second structure, it's children who finally scraped up enough money to move onto their parents' land, or it's parents whose their parents are getting older and they want to be near them. It's almost always a hardship. And when they get to our office and realize that it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks just to get approval to get a permit, they're usually blown away, and it's usually a huge problem for them. So this is one thing that I'd like to have a little bit more leeway in my office to be able to. Another thing I'll note is usually when I look at their site plan, I can right off the bat know this is going to get approved by the zoning commission, or this certainly won't. You're wasting your time. So I want to be able to have the authority to go ahead and cut that 6 to 8 weeks out of it, move forward.
Are there any questions from Mr. Boudreaux? Okay. Mr. Shealy.
I hope this is the last time. Reed is right. This is
Yeah.
one of those areas in which we're trying to do things more administratively, speed up the process, and help these folks out. So we had just had one, Dean and I had one suggestion. If you look in subsection C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 7th line, where it says requirements of Iberia Parish ordinances, comma, we suggest that you just strike the remainder of that, and the wording that we're suggesting is that it may be approved administratively by the Director of Permitting, Planning, and Zoning, and permitted without requiring the lot to be subdivided into additional lots. So it makes it real clear that it's an administrative process. If he approves of it because it fits all the other requirements, does not have to come to the council, he can administratively do
He can
so.
make
So
it come,
that's our suggestion.
Yeah. And I do want to make everyone understand, in particular, the people getting these permits, it's not a slam dunk. We still have to look at it and evaluate it and make sure that it can be approved. And this is really a zoning issue, but it turns into a planning issue. Does it meet all the requirements of how you would subdivide the land? So they still have an opportunity. If I don't approve of it, they can still come to the zoning commission and ultimately get to you guys, but that would be an exception. But in general, they can be approved by us.
Mr. Napier?
Thank you, sir. So if I understand, it doesn't just end with you as one person, it goes to the commission?
No, it would only, so I'll get their site plan. If I can see that, yes, you could divide this land and that would be something that would be approved by us, then I can go ahead and approve it, and that's it. We
And
issue a
that's it.
permit.
But if you deny it,
If-
you give them the opportunity to go
To appeal,
to
exactly.
go to the
They have an
commission?
opportunity to go to the commission.
Okay, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Mr. Napier reserves back. Councilman Rawson is recognized.
The word structures, do we, I guess, does the zoning just take care of what can be placed there?
That was one thing that kind of caught my attention when I first got here too. It says, the whole thing says, one building to a lot. Every building erected, reconstructed, converted, structurally altered. Yeah, it just says one main building. It doesn't say house or business or anything. It just says building. It does say main building, so you can interpret that as a house and a shop, or
Yeah.
but.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Zoning, yeah.
right.
Oh yeah, as far as commercial or residential type of thing, yeah.
When he said subdivide, made me think.
Councilman Rawson, does that answer your question? Councilman Rawson reserves. Anyone else? Okay, I had a motion by Mr. Paul Landry and a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Is that a substitute motion to put on the floor to accept the language recommended by the attorney? Hear any discussion on the substitute motion? Roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 5122, introduced by the clerk of the council. Madam Clerk.
Summary number 5122, an ordinance describing the precinct boundaries for the Iberia Parish Council, assigning polling place locations, and providing further with respect thereto.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry. Do I have a second?
Move.
Second by Councilman Brian Napier.
Wait.
Mr. Landry waves. Mr. Napier waves. I know the registered voter is
Yeah.
here tonight if she wants to step up. If y'all have any questions for her. Ms. Blanchard, if you can step to the mic. Members, are there any questions for Ms. Blanchard? Ms. Blanchard, if you can, just for the camera, if you can just explain in short form about what we're doing here.
Okay, so reapportionment is happening based on every 10 years. The census is done. The numbers come in based on population. So the council has to do a reapportionment. So that started way back in 2019 with freezing all the precinct lines. And so now y'all froze the lines in 19 and got with the demographer, and he came up with the reducing from 64 precincts to 37, which I'm again say this is just a temporary thing. So you went from 64 precincts to 37. The special election that'll be held in October will be on the 37 precincts. at those 37 precincts.
Good.
Then, since the numbers are coming in with the census, after, and I'm assuming in the next couple of weeks, month or whatever, y'all gonna start working on redistricting. And then y'all lines are gonna move again and possibly go back up to 50 precincts or more or less, depending on when y'all look at the map and see that things have to be moved because you don't like the way your district looks. So, again, this is temporary for October's election and if there's a runoff for November. But again, you're gonna be talking about, looking at the map, moving your particular district, talking amongst yourselves on how you want your district to look. And then redistricting will happen, and then we'll have another map in line. So my staff and myself will have to do a plan with the state to change all my voter records, which means you will have a lot of voters calling my office because it's going to generate them to go to maybe another polling location. They may have to travel further, and you're going to have them calling, which they'll be upset or whatever. But again, remember to tell them it's temporary. It's going to be a cost to the parish, my office, for postage because we have to mail out ID cards. Then again, in 6 months possibly, we'll have to send more ID cards out, changing them back possibly to the same place they've been voting forever. So I had asked y'all at the last meeting that the council and the clerk of court and myself come up with some type of press release to notify voters, however we have to do it, that's going to be happening. So a lot of people don't get their mail. A lot of people don't get the little cards that we send out. So we just, y'all need to be prepared to answer questions, and if you can't, please direct them to my office. So again, it's just temporary. So, but that's pretty much what's going to be happening.
I do believe there's a question. Councilman Olivier?
Yeah, I know you're gonna mail everybody new registration cards, but you need to highlight on that mail out that's important changes in your voting location.
Yeah, so the state allows us to put some, they put a little, to hopefully catch the voters' attention, and we can determine if it's going to be temporary change, permanent change, or reapportionment, So we'll have to come up with something. So, and then, of course, we can highlight it, put a sticker on it, something. Yeah.
Just whatever you can, that's because a lot of people don't grab that card, look at it, they'll throw it on the dresser.
Right,
The last time
right. And then the day of
Put something
voting.
flashy on it to get their attention.
Yeah.
Make sure you read it.
Yes, we'll try. And of course, day of the election, they're gonna go to that polling place that they usually vote at, that's closed. But Brenda and I have spoken about the signs that's already up at polling places and the ones that's closed. And then Public Works usually goes and puts a new sign or covers them. We have to have a sign saying, and David has been real good, the clerk has been real good to have his employees at the places that are closed when there's a change. So I'm sure he will have his staff there the day of the election saying, this is closed, whatever, due to report, please. And they can look it up on the Go Vote and send them to the correct, or call us and we'll direct them where to go. I don't foresee that this election will be a 40% turnout at the polls either. So you're not going to have a lot of people going. I mean, it would be great, but so we'll make that. And then I think it was Marty that had asked that I contact the mayors and the lifestyle. I do have a note to myself to do that once all of this is finalized, which hopefully, tonight y'all vote on that. And Larry will sign off on it, and I'll start making my phone calls to let them know what's going to be happening. I can't start my work. I'm ready to move all my streets and my people, but they have to wait until they get the signed copy. So,
Okay. Councilman Olivier, are you finished? Parish President Richard?
Yes, just for my information, who made the change from 64 to 34? Is that from the state?
No. So when Mike Hefner came and presented a map to the council reducing, because what happened, and this has never happened before, legislature allowed Louisiana parishes to start over from scratch. They gave them the choice, and maybe they, some of them, y'all didn't understand what he was asking or saying at that time. a lot of councilmen had come to me throughout the year saying they would like to reduce because of the cost to the parish, because it's $3,300 a precinct to operate. So the council voted on it to reduce and to erase all the lines and start over so that you get a better lines following either a street or a drainage ditch or something instead of. So when you look at the map, the lines are clearer. So it was reduced, and but again, redistricting will happen, and because the statute says you can't have more than 2,200 voters in a precinct, y'all gonna have to go up with some. You will have to increase and add polling precincts again.
Okay, so
It's the process that happens every 10 years. It's not new.
Oh, no,
This happened before, but I wouldn't probably be up here talking today. But because we have a special election, it's different this time.
Because of that one election.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so what's gonna happen? We're gonna save some money from the 64 precincts to the 37, then we're gonna go back and spend the money again a little bit.
But to 50 this time.
Well, depending, like I said, I mean, I would love to see y'all stay at 37, but you can't. You can't because the way the population shifted in the parish, you're gonna have to. I mean, I have some people in Jeanerette on the same area line that's being moved all the way to Lowerville. That can't stay like that. So, District 12, 11, y'all gonna have to look at that to move it. So, but that's why I'm saying y'all probably gonna go up to probably 50. It would be great.
Thank you.
Mr. Richard yields back. Mr. Michael Landry is recognized.
Really, I think we're gonna have problems. I know because I've been getting phone calls for a couple of weeks since people heard what was happening. And I don't know how he drew these lines, but he's moving voting polls all the way 5 or 6 miles. And I thought that's kind of unfortunate. So like West End Park, he's moving that all the way to Koto. That's a long distance. I mean, we got people trying to. I'm nothing wrong with Koto, and I'm not down in Koto. I'm just down in that. We're gonna have problems with it, and I understand it's temporary, but a lot of temporary is permanent, and I hope that we don't plan on making this permanent, because I think in my district, other than the city's marshal, we don't have nothing else, but I have people in my district who's in a city. So it's gonna be, and they're gonna have to have, it's gonna be a lot of confusion.
Yeah, so, and when the demographer, I can't speak on what his job title is, but statute only allows him to do, there's a law he has to follow. So a voter is not supposed to go more than 10 miles to vote. They have to be within a 10-mile radius. So that's in the statute, so he has to follow that.
But I mean, there's nothing
Yeah.
we can
So-
do.
So when y'all gonna start working on redistricting, you probably have a lot of questions. I'll be glad. Y'all can come see me and,
Good.
we can answer. Mike Hefner would be glad to answer your questions.
Councilman Landry, you finished? Councilman Landry yields back. My only concern is, and I think some other members are sharing a concern, and we had this discussion, Ms. Blanchard, is that redistricting doesn't start with the lines that we had previously or that we in now. Redistricting will start with the lines that are newly drawn. So I think that's been a lot of the concern between council members, school board members, and of course, I know there's some members from the New Iberia City Council here. So that affects all of us. So, Mr. Shealy.
Yeah, I think I can help a little bit. First of all, there are only certain times that you can reduce your precincts. And it just so happened this time it fell when it affected because there was a special election. A lot of times this happens and nobody knows it because there's not an election. That's the unfortunate thing about it. And so what Mr. Hefner has done is to take it and reduce it as much as he can, at least to start off with, because you really don't know what it's going to look like until you get your redistricting numbers. then it'll build back up. So it is temporary. It's also designed to go to visible bounds as to where those precincts end. When I say visible bounds, I'm talking about a road, a bridge, or creek or something where it's easier to follow than just like the problem with the very
Right,
various
right.
line. So I think that's what Mr. Hefner has done is this is the starting point of
Yeah.
which you will build. The unfortunate part is your people are just going to have to unfortunately have it for this one election.
And just one
until
election,
the
yeah.
redistricting information gets here and you build those precincts
Right.
back based upon where you draw your district lines after that.
Gotcha.
Maybe that
Okay.
helps.
Mr. Shealy, are you finished? Councilman Montrand is recognized.
Ms. Blanchard, you mentioned that there was, cost savings by reducing the districts, but is that cost savings gonna be absorbed by the extra work by the departments and the publications? And, I mean, how much are we gonna save because of the extra that needs to be done?
I think that, well, this won't change until another 10 years possibly. So, every time you have an election and you have to open up 64 precincts, that's $3,300 times 64. So, and depending on what type of election it is, you're sharing the cost.
Right.
It won't affect, so just for instance, like in March, if y'all have to have the District 3, if that's the only thing on the ballot, the cost is just on the council.
Yeah, there's no cost share.
So, I'm sure throughout the years, I'm sure it'll save the parish some money.
Councilman Montrand, are you finished? Councilman Napier is recognized.
So just for verification, why can't this one be in the fall, District 3? For everybody that's watching. I know why, but if
Secretary
you
of
can.
State.
For the
No,
secretary.
I want her to
Okay.
say it.
So, it's based on, and Andy can back me with that too on the law, based on the date the resignation was received by the Secretary of State, and then the Secretary of State is the one who tells my office and the the letter that was received when the
So
election's
we
gonna be
missed the
held.
cutoff date. It's-
Yeah.
That's what right?
And the qualifying dates are so close that
It's a shame that we couldn't put it on there.
you missed it by a little bit. But the Secretary of State selects when those elections are going to be based upon that, and so that's why that date was
Yeah,
chosen.
okay.
Councilman
Thanks.
Napier, you
Thank
finished?
you.
Any other questions for Ms. Blanchard?
statement.
Councilman Landry?
I would like you to see if you could get with the clerk and Ms. Blanchard and on that press release, so that y'all could start thinking about how you want to do it, so.
Absolutely. I think you'll all be included in that to let you know what's going on. I think, like she said, there's already been negotiations between her and Brenda to get you that information, and we'll definitely be on that to let our constituents know. That's a good question, Paul. Ms. Blanchard, did you want to close on anything else?
I think when Mike, I thought of something. I still don't know for sure, but I think there will be a statewide election on some proposed constitutional amendments. So it will be a statewide election on October's.
October.
And still not clear if they'll have some in November. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but definitely October. So,
Ms. Blanchard, thank you for being here, and thank you for the good job you're doing.
okay, you're welcome.
All right, members, is there any other discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to resolutions introduced for public hearing and adoption. Summary number 93, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk?
A resolution appointing Mr. Jody Swear to the Waterworks District Number 3 Board for a 5-year term to fill a vacancy created by the expiration of term for Mr. Jody Swear, whose term expires August 5th, 2021.
I have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry and a second by Councilwoman Broussard. Councilman Landry?
Waive, but I think we need to have Mr.
Councilwoman Broussard? Waves?
Yield to Mr.
Mr. Swear, if you can step to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Jody Swear. My address is 10109 Lake Pinier Road, Liberia.
You want to just briefly address the council? You're rerunning?
Yeah, I've been doing serving the parish for 20 plus years on a voluntary basis. If y'all still want me, vote for me.
Are there any questions for Mr. Swear? Hearing none, Mr. Swear, thank you for your service to the community, sir.
Thank you.
Hearing no other,
y'all want me, I'll
roll
stay.
call members, those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 105, introduced by the parish president. Madam Clerk?
A resolution accepting the audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2020, as prepared by Coulter, Slavin and Company, and further acknowledging the submissions of said audit to the Louisiana Legislative Auditor and the Federal Audit Clearinghouse.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown. Second by Councilman Olivier. Mr. Brown. Mr. Olivier. Any discussion, members? Hearing none, roll call, members. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to summary number 106, introduced by the Clerk of the Council. Madam Clerk?
A resolution ordering calling a special election on, let me see what my dates are. March 26, 2022 for the primary and April 30th, 2022 for the general, to fill a vacancy in the office of District 3 of the Iberia Parish Council created by the resignation of Mr. Brad Davis, all in accordance with Section 204B of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Have a motion by Councilman Paul Landry and a second by Councilman Brian Napier. Mr. Landry? Mr. Napier? Any discussion, members? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Guston, can I just mention that
Absolutely.
each of you have a copy of that resolution. The resolution you have before you shows that it's actually Section 2-04C of the Iberia Parish Home Rule Charter rather than B. But
Do you think I need to amend it, or just state it for the record? Is there any problems with amending the language to C? Do I have a unanimous consent?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. Summary number 107, introduced by Francis Tommy Pollard Sr., District 1. Madam Clerk?
A resolution amending the 2021 Public Building Maintenance Fund budget in the amount of $36,300 to provide funding for the Robert B. Green Memorial Building for the purchase of appliances, tables, chairs, security system, camera signs, flagpole, window blinds, sod, and landscaping, all to be funded from the fund balance previous year.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilmember Pollard, second by Councilmember Lloyd Brown. Councilmember Pollard? Councilmember Brown? Any discussion, members?
Yes.
Councilmember Napier is recognized.
So, I apologize for not being at the committee meeting, but maybe Kim can help out. How much money has parish government put in this building? I know the state funded most of it, right?
Yeah, so the grant award is somewhere around 400 and something thousand, and we were responsible for about 25%, well, for 25%. So just, kind of straight math is, right at about 100, but it seems like the number is somewhere around 80 or 90, not exact, but,
So is this something that wasn't, I know maybe you or whoever wasn't included and this is just added on. I don't know if this came up in committee, I apologize.
It did. No, he's talking about, the specific question didn't come up, but we did discuss it in committee, and I think these were, help me if I'm wrong, Mr. Landry, Mr. Pollard was looking at other forms of entities to get maybe possibly tables, chairs, to cut down on some of these expenses. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If Mr. Napier would want to state that in the question to Mr. Pollard, I wouldn't have a problem with that, where he's at with that.
Right, so, my question is just, was this not taken in the?
No.
It wasn't included in the beginning in any of the monies that we received from the state or from the parish? This is, and that money, all of that money that was put in is all spent?
yes.
And we asking for extra money for it, right? Right. So I mean, my question was, why wasn't figured in all along the way that it comes in at the end?
the grant monies for the building, and the matching goes to the building, but it doesn't pay for any of these things in here. So once the building's ready, now it's time to get the things, but I know Tommy's tracking down a bunch of stuff. Libraries or something have some, yeah, I think it was the libraries are gonna have some tables and chairs, and so 36 ain't gonna be spent. That's just, you gotta
Yeah,
have
that's-
to look at.
Okay, okay.
We'll come in below that.
And the money that is not spent will go back to.
We'll come
fund
back to
balance.
parish. Okay, okay, thank
that
you.
good with you, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you.
Any other discussion, members? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summer number 108, introduced by Marty Trahan, District 13. Madam Clerk.
A resolution requesting the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development to perform a traffic study at the intersection of Louisiana Highway 675, Jefferson Island Road, and Louisiana Highway 14, Center Street, near Delcom for the appropriate traffic signals.
Do I have a motion? Have a motion by Councilman Olivier and a second by Councilman Michael Landry. Councilman Olivier? Councilman Landry? Any discussion? Marty will be proud. Roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Moving on to summary number 109, introduced by the Regional Planning Commission. Madam Clerk?
A resolution granting preliminary plat approval to a subdivision of property belonging to Cherokee Real Estate Incorporated, located on Northside Road near Honeybee Lane, to create 13 lots designated as lots 1 through 13, located in District 9, subject to compliance with Planning Commission staff report, PC 2021-0012, all as reviewed and recommended by the Iberia Parish Regional Planning Commission.
Do you have a motion? Motion by Councilman Rossini, second by Councilman Napier. Councilman Rossini?
Read.
Mr. Boudreau? Busy night, Reed.
All right, so Mr. J.D. Dugas owns about 22 acres in Morbihan on North Side Road near the bridge on Belle Place Olivier Road. He wants to divide it into 13 lots. It's a rectangular property. He's going to build a road to parish specs down the center, dedicate that to the parish. It'll be a public road. 13 lots. They're going to be about maybe an acre and a half each. Of all the things that have come through my office, this seems to be the most well thought out. He's got his engineers, he's got his surveyors. He's been holding the land and thinking about this for quite some time. He's going to have to give us plans for construction, showing the roadway. Everything has to be done in accordance with our ordinances, a drainage impact analysis, stormwater management, stormwater pollution prevention plan, everything. I think it's going to be a great development. I think the lots are going to fly. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Most of those already sold, yeah.
Councilman Rossini, are you ready? Councilman Rossini
you're right.
yields back. Councilman Napier?
I'm good.
Councilman Napier waves. Any other discussion, members, on the main motion? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Ordinances introduced for publication. Members, I'll just ask that the clerk read it in the record. Summary number 5123, introduced by Regional Planning Commission. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance approving the reclassification request for the property of Stacy and Kelly Dortez, located at the southeast corner of the intersection of David Duval Road and South Curtis Lane, with said parcel being zoned to C2 General Business, located in District 10, subject to compliance with Planning Commission staff report ZC 2021-0006, all as reviewed and recommended by the Iberia Parish Regional Planning Commission.
Just for publication, members, I'll need a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by Councilman Lloyd Brown, second. By Councilwoman Broussard. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Those in favor will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, hearing no opposition, the ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously, and we pass.